Uh, Hi, my name is Aditya Menon. I come from a law background. I completed my BA LLB from National Law University Delhi in 2020. Since then, after that, I worked with Ernst& Young for a year, and then I left that in October of 2021. Yeah, and since then, I have, I've not been employed anywhere. So the reason for that was because I wanted to explore alternate career options and I wanted to sort of get into the tech industry. I tried to learn on my own. I had some success with that. But, as time went on, I realized that it was important to have both, predetermined structure in how you go about learning tech. Also, for someone getting into it from a completely, non-CS, non-tech background, even the first steps are so difficult to, understand and come across. So, I came across Moocable on a Reddit post. Junaid had mentioned in the Reddit post that, he ran a company called Moocable, and they offered the ability to, learn tech without having to pay the exorbitant amounts that many other boot camps, sort of charge you. And I felt his pitch resonated with me. So I decided to join Moocable in November of 2020. Uh, so that's my journey to Moocable. That's why I decided to get to tech and why I chose Moocable.
So we started with the Odin Project, right?
Hmm.
And we have people who are watching this video who most of them are coming from non-CS background. Okay.
Hmm.
And so for someone who is just starting learning to code or program, and they
Hmm.
decide to check out the Odin project, can
Hmm.
you share your perspective and what was that journey like for you?
So, as I was looking into free resources for learning tech and, trying to figure out how I would enter the industry, two things, sort of were sort of prerequisites as I was searching for what to do. One was that, I wanted to know what are the most basic technologies that a person can learn, to get started. Like, I didn't know anything. I hadn't learned computer science in school. I had no background in computer science. I'd never touched COBOL, QBasic, all that jazz. So, for someone like me, where do I get started, right? And secondly, it was important for me to have a source of income. As you're, learning something, there is only a finite amount of time you can live off your savings, right? After that point, you will need money in your bank account, and, living is expensive. So to supplement that, I also realized that I would need to, make money, if not immediately through a job, then while I am learning the, things that I would require to get into tech employment, I would need freelance gigs that would help me get money. So while I was doing some research on, web development technologies, a couple of resources came up, and one of them was the Odin project. So when I went into the Odin project, it's a very well laid out, learning path. So first, they have two portions to it. They have a foundations portion where you start off learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and, small things that are so important to your growth and your, understanding of development in general, not just web development. Things like Git, things like, how, something is structured. Secondly, when you're learning through the Odin project, it gets you familiar with reading as a source of, learning for you. When you're beginning web development, there'll be a lot of information out there in the form of YouTube videos, in the form of, various ways to get you started, right? But the truth is that there are a lot of resources for beginners, but there are not a lot of sources out there for intermediate programmers and developers. Once you are past that beginner stage, you're sort of left to your own devices. So if you're still trying to learn from videos, you might find that there aren't videos that cater to your specific requirements. Or you're trying to learn a new technology, but nobody is making content about that particular technology because it's not popular. But you have that requirement because it's niche, right? Maybe there is a company out there that works with a particular framework, and they have hired you to work on that framework, but there isn't any video based content regarding working on that framework. So you have to get used to reading documentation of the framework, documentation of the language you're using. You have to really get comfortable with reading large amounts of data, assimilating it, and understanding how to apply that to your project. So for that, I feel Odin Project really helps you with thinking like a developer.
Right. And so on Mookable, we want to help learners whether they want to study with Mookable or they want to study on their own. Okay. Now, for any self learner out there, Aditya, what were the obstacles that you faced when you started the Odin project and how did you overcome them?
So, a couple of the obstacles I faced when starting the Odin project were that it was very new to me. Everything was very new to me. You know, HTML was new to me, CSS was new to me. Even thinking in terms of code was so new to me. So I had no familiarity with it. I had no basis for understanding what they were saying. So two things that helped me a lot in getting more comfortable with the Odin project were time. I spent all my time, beating my head against whatever it was that they had sent out uh, within the course. So first read what they had recommended. Then I made sure to read the additional recommended documentation that they had provided within the Odin project. And I went on YouTube and I just immersed myself in tech YouTube. I made sure to read all the I made sure to watch every video I could. I followed channels that were tech focused, people like fireship.io, and there are many great channels out there that talk about tech, talk about the challenges of working in tech, that talk about specific languages, how you should build a page in HTML. How do you, integrate CSS into that? How do you integrate JavaScript into that? So, getting familiar with the vernacular of it, getting familiar with the syntax, hearing people talk about, things like classes, variables, they help you, move out of thinking in terms of just English and help you think in terms of programming languages. So that is something that really helped me out. Also, originally it's a little difficult to find the motivation to do what it is you're doing. But that's of course a very individual thing. Everybody has different levels of motivation. Everybody has different levels of attention and commitment. So it's important to be able to set time out for yourself when you're going to learn. It's important to follow the steps in the order that they list them. The Odin project requires you to either dual boot Ubuntu onto your computer, or run a virtual machine for Xubuntu. It requires you to familiarize yourself with using your terminal, using your terminal to change files, make new files, search for things. So and also it asks you to familiarize yourself with using Git through your terminal, setting up a GitHub account, things that I'm sure a regular software developer doesn't even think twice about. But these things are so new, so alien to someone getting into technology, that it takes a little bit more time than the average person. So what I feel is you can't lose your himmat, as it were. You've got to sort of keep the faith. You've got to know why you're doing what you're doing, and you've got to be consistent about it. You need to make sure that you just show up. As long as you show up and you're there for those 2 hours, 3 hours, however much time you can take out, you will see the progress. You will 110% see the growth that you're looking for within the path you've chosen. but it's just important to be there for it. So that's how I sort of got over the challenges I faced.
Uh, in what way do you think Mookable has helped you in your web dev journey so far?
You know, uh, I feel Mookable works in two ways. Firstly, is the accountability, knowing that your mentor is going to ask you twice a week. How is your progress going? Can you share your work? Are you facing any problems? Learning on your own is all well and good, but having another person there be invested in your journey as well, having the understanding that there'll be someone out there who will, act as a reference for you when you do decide to go into the tech industry, when a company or an employer asks who is this person, where have they come from, and someone can vouch for you and say, I have taught this person, this is what he's learned, these are his projects. It adds so much weight to anybody's application, that I think that is one of the most important things that Moocable offers you. Just support where oftentimes there doesn't seem to be any support, right? you know there are times when you would feel like there is nobody who believes in your sort of goals, dreams, or ambitions as much as you do. But that is not anybody else's concern or prerogative in life, right? That's all on you, how committed you're going to be, how consistent you're going to be.
And any closing remarks for someone who wants to study programming on his own and who wants to study the Odin project exclusively?
So the only advice I could potentially offer is that you have to be consistent and committed to it. you know Whatever happens, you need to keep yourself accountable. Make a schedule for yourself. Say, I will make sure to complete my HTML or CSS portion within this week. And if it goes a little beyond that, make sure to say, okay, another day or two. That's as much as I'm willing to give it. Because when you set deadlines for yourself, only then will you be able to adhere to them, right? Otherwise, it's so easy to go down any of the myriad rabbit holes. You start reading about HTML, then you'll be like, oh, so this is a little bit more intermediate HTML. Maybe I should learn this. Or you start reading about CSS, and then you see, oh, some people have built such beautiful websites with CSS. Maybe I should figure out how that works. So it's important to be sort of tunnel vision into what it is you're learning, and be consistent with learning that while you're learning it, and knowing that you will always have the opportunity to learn more things in the future. But a solid foundation is the best gift you can give yourself, because you're not doing this for you in the present, you're doing this for you in the future. And you in the future should be looking back at you 3, 4, 6 months in the past and thanking you, rather than sort of cursing you out for not paying enough attention, for not being consistent or committed enough.
Rightly said. And I think like everything that Aditya has mentioned is is it's very platform agnostic, whether you are learning through the Odin project, a free code camp, or any other platform. And it's a very unique insight that you have. And I'm sure there are so many learners out there who want to get into web dev, who want to learn how to program, and they're just nervous in taking the first step. So I hope Aditya's uh, journey and his perspective helps you a lot.